Have you ever ridden a ride that is so bad that it's made you want to like metaphorically hang up your cape? Like, you know what? That's enough for me. I'm done here.
Nope. I am really tough, so that would never happen to me.
Yeah, same. Me too. But you know, this does happen to all sorts of people. People who maybe haven't ridden that many roller coasters, as well as like coaster enthusiasts who like know what is out there, but you get that one bad egg and you're just like, you know what? I am done for the day. I'm done riding roller coasters. Or sometimes I need to take a break from theme parks.
Yeah, like I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm checking out now.
It happens. We've heard all sorts of stories about people who are like, you know, I rode this one really rough roller coaster and then I didn't ride rides for years because it like maybe sometimes physically hurt them.
So a little over a year ago, we started off a Patreon page, which has just been so much fun and it's been so great getting to know everybody. But we realized that one thing that was kind of missing was like a sincere connection between the regular channel and what we were doing on there. So we've been doing these like discussion posts all along where like we'll ask some kind of question and we all chat about like what our answer would be. And we're like, why are we not turning these into videos?
Yeah.
Like sharing their opinions. Like what a great way to connect the channel to that. And
absolutely.
That's what we're gonna do. We asked everybody, has there ever been a roller coaster that you've ridden that has made you just want to stop? Whether it be for the day, for a week, for a month, for years, depends. Some people gave good stories. Some people just named a ride. And we're going to go through some of our favorites as well as our answers.
So Leroy starts us off with Son of Beast. And I know that this is definitely a popular one when it comes to this answer.
We obviously never rode it though.
No, never got on this. But I've heard plenty of people say that this was like enough for them to just want to stop. So Leroy specifically cites that he got off the ride with a bloody kneecap.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. I heard that those trains were like very uncomfortable and tight, right?
Yeah.
Like you were kind of banging around in there.
He says his knee got jammed into the bolts in the seat in front of him. That just sounds so unpleasant.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take a break after that too, quite honestly. That does not sound fun at all. But like I said, we never got to ride it, but we've done other RCCA coasters and like I can't imagine one with an inversion.
Yeah.
On that scale, like no.
But I can also, I don't think I've ever gotten off a ride where like, you know, I was like actually injured where like it drew blood.
Next one on the list is one that I absolutely agree with. And this one comes from Barbara. She's from Czech Republic. Her home park is Energylandia, and she cited Viking.
This was one of the dumbest rides I think I've ever experienced. It's, for those who are unfamiliar, it is a spinning wild mouse with over-the-shoulder restraints.
So you can imagine what that would be like.
Think about those 180-degree hairpin turns, but now your head is slamming into the side.
There's literally no need. There's no need.
None.
There are plenty of coasters that go upside down that don't need them. A freaking wild mouse does not need one.
It is so ridiculous.
It really doesn't.
Energylandia has so many roller coasters. They could get rid of this ride and no one would bat an eye. No one would care. So there's a couple people that cited Zamperla Volares as their answer, and I completely understand this. This comes from Rohan, Andrew, and then Mr. No Ride has a story here. He went on a New York trip back in 2014. He was just getting into roller coasters, and he almost quit for good after he did Soaring Eagle specifically, but he also cites Thunderbolts. So that's two Zamperlas right there.
Oh, well, if I'm being honest with you, if I was not an enthusiast and I rode a Volare, I'd probably be done too, because they're just awful. There's nothing redeeming about them.
Well, I just think about Coney Island specifically, all right? So this is like right in New York City. So there are just thousands and thousands of people who this is probably like their first big park they go to. And there's a Zamperla Volare, a Zamperla Thunderbolt, and the Coney Island Cyclone is old and it has a bite to it. That's a rough one too. So between those three rides, I could see how someone who isn't super experienced with coasters could be like, you know what, this is not for me.
All right, the next one comes from Kevin, and he says, mind blower at Fun Spot. And you know what? I agree.
That is a brutal roller coaster.
I did agree. And now I double checked with him. I said, have you ridden it since they put the 208 track? He said no. So I think that it is more bearable now.
It is more bearable, but that whole experience when you were hitting those valleys and it was just jackhammering, that ride did not age well, but to be honest, it also started off like on the rougher side too. Mm-hmm. So everything about that experience was just not ideal when it comes to what you want a wooden roller coaster to feel like.
No, and like how often do I sit things out? Not often, right? Whenever we go to Fun Spot, I would always sit out, which is very unlike me.
You specifically said because if you ride it, it gives you a headache to where you're just like, I can't like think. Almost like a migraine. Where that's it.
I do have headache issues, but this one specifically causes one that is like to the point that I'm like, I need to go home now. I'm done. Yeah,
and that's like probably the only ride really that's done that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Another really rough wind roller coaster is Predator at Darien Lake. This one comes from Trico 890. They've also done some retracking with it. This one, GCI Titan Track. I've only ridden this like once or twice, and I remember thinking it wasn't great, but it's also been a while. I could see it getting worse, or maybe it was worse back in the day. So yeah, man, it's these old wind roller coasters that just aren't maintained super well.
You can ride a coaster 1 year and it's like, wow, that's so nice and smooth. And then the next year you ride it, you're like, oh my God, what happened here?
Yeah.
So totally depends.
Vice versa too, it happens.
Next one on the list comes from Phil, and he cites Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket as a roller coaster that made him want to stop riding roller coasters for a while.
Well, and specifically, he says it's because the harness was so tight that he had trouble breathing. And then when it's such a rough ride, it's constantly just like jackhammering on those valleys and everything. Yeah, that would like take the wind out of you.
Yeah, if your restraint is like too tight on that ride, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It can be very uncomfortable.
And that's another one that it is at just a huge park that gets like tons of people every single day. And it's not the most comfortable experience. And so that can impact your view on roller coasters in general. RJ has an interesting one. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. He said specifically when he was a kid, he got off it and was like, that was like not a fun experience. And
Mickey, cover your ears.
I actually think about my first time on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Mine was actually at Disneyland, not Disney World. And I remember 6-year-old Taylor getting like a kink in my neck from one of the transitions that I wasn't prepared for. And I was like, I don't know, that wasn't super fun. I remember not really liking it.
Yeah, the thing with that ride is when you're small, you do get kind of tossed around like a rag doll. Like I remember my dad used to always like ride with like his arm like across me to make sure or something like that. And like I could see that if you kind of shuffle around the wrong way or if you're sitting by yourself, like you could totally like get.
Oh yeah.
So here's another one that we never got the chance to ride, the original. And this one comes from Evan. He says the Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. We've only done New Texas Giant.
All I'm saying is there's a reason it's new. There's a reason that they redid it.
Yeah. To quote This Is How We Roll, they couldn't see the park without the Texas Giant, but they also couldn't picture it continuing to run the way that it did. So that tells me there's some validity to what he said there, because
that came from the park president at the time.
Yeah. So it must not have been very good.
He cited specifically it hurting his back, which again, like I know we mentioned this with like Mind Blower and like some of these other really rough wind roller coasters. Like if you aren't properly bracing yourself for some of these transitions, it's your first time, you don't know, what is about to hit you. Oh yeah, you'd be like, I need a stretch after that, and it like completely messes you up.
Well, he also cited that it was right before it closed to get RMC.
Oh, so it's probably in the worst condition it's ever been in then.
Well, that was like when I rode Grizzly, and it was right before it got retracked. It really hurt my... Remember, I came off crying.
Yeah, that's right.
It hurt my back so bad.
So that's a great one for you. Were you done for the day?
No.
You were like, I'm still gonna ride right through. No. But you were done for at least a little bit. You were like, I need to chill out. You're like, that was too much for you. Yeah. I remember that being pretty intense. I think about when we were at Lost Island. We rode the Voma SLC in the back, and it was not great. It was fine, but I was like, I'm gonna go get a front row POV, right? I was sitting alone for this, because you were making a smart decision. You're like, oh, I'm not gonna ride the SLC again. I hit the bottom of the drop going up into like the first inversion, and that was one of the worst feelings I've ever had on a roller coaster.
You said your head flung back so hard.
Hit the back of the seat. It was so painful. And we have the on-ride footage to prove where you can even see the camera, which has built-in stabilization. The camera's still jostling around from this. And then there was another moment later in the ride that was also just as bad. I don't know what happened when they did this roller coaster, but they messed up. They warned
you in the station.
The guy was like, sit in the back for a smoother experience. The front is a lot. Like,
no kidding.
Yeah. I came off that ride pissed.
You did.
I was so mad. I have never had that happen on any other roller coaster.
I love the difference. You come off all pissed, I come off crying.
I mean,
like
roller coasters affect people differently, man.
I guess.
I was so upset after that one. I was like, ugh. Roller coasters suck. No, just Voma SLCs suck.
Another one that because we're telling our opinions now. I have two, and I'll make them quick. One was the first one that almost turned me off the roller coasters, and that was the Great American Scream Machine. It's since been closed, thank goodness. And thank God that I did not quit for real that day, because I ended up riding El Toro later that day, and thus a little Thursday was born. No big deal. And then the other one I will cite is X2 because I rode X2 too many times and I got stuck with a kink in my neck.
And it affected you the next day.
Yeah, I didn't get to ride anything, really.
That was like, actually, you were done for the day. Like, that was legitimately like, all right, we need to leave. Speaking of Six Flags Magic Mountain, they used to have a ride called Flashback. We never got on this, but just looking at the videos, it looks so bad. In like every possible way, Jimmy specifically cites this one as saying, my neck still hurts 23 years later.
Oh my, well.
That is not good.
That tells us all you need to know.
That it was that memorable that it affects you like that.
I don't even want to say the next one, but it's my turn in the rotation, so I guess I have to. This one comes from Glenn. He cites El Toro.
Ooh.
And I don't want to say anything else, so.
He said he visited Great Adventure for the first time in September and he had to take a break from riding for the rest of the day. There were so few riders that the ride operators had to have them fill the first 3 cars, and so he wasn't able to ride in the second to last row like our recommendations. And so he's in the 3rd row, which is like a wheel seat, you know. Don't ride there if you can avoid it. And so he says at the bottom of the first drop, it hit his back and completely messed him up. And so he had to stop after that one. He said he will return one day, but he's from LA and he's delicate. So it's an ordeal.
Not that I'm delicate. You know what? I think you gotta give it another chance. Sit in a better seat, maybe.
But, man, El Toro really is one of those like hit or miss. If you don't pick the right row, I can see that ride being way too much for some people. And finally, we have The Boss at Six Flags St. Louis. Hey, what do you think of that ride, Sarah?
Not great.
Oh, yeah? How do you know?
Because I have the credit from Matt.
Oh, Matt gave you his credit because
He
it was
donated
closed.
it.
It was closed for you, so
Yeah.
he didn't want it, so he gave it to you.
Well, because it was so bad.
Yeah.
So he agrees.
Yeah, that's how that works. Anyways, Alex nominated this one. He says, the layout is not bad, but the track makes this thing so rough, and when you compound that with the Gerstlauer trains that have 0 padding, it just was not a great combination. He says, please RMC it, or at least put Gravity Group pre-cut track on it, or new trains. Any of those combinations would
Literally anything.
would make it better than the way it currently is. That about sums it up.
Yeah, there were a bunch more comments, but we'll be here all day otherwise. So if you guys aren't already members, all you have to do is be at the lowest level to be a part of discussions. So even if it's the $2 a month subscription, like you are welcomed to join in and talk about these things and give your input, and maybe it'll be in a video.
Yeah, absolutely. We have plenty more of these planned. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.